right, hey guys, and welcome to the Nouveau Riche Podcast. So today we have him on. It took a while, but we have him on. The man, Brodie Kern. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, man.
Absolutely, dude. Excited to be here.
That's awesome, man. So yeah, I know your story is all out over the internet, but for the people who don't know you, give me like the headlines on your the big picture on your story.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm a husband. I'm a father, 25-year-old serial entrepreneur. I'm a recovering alcoholic, drug addict. I have a lot of things that have, happened in the last 5 years of my life that have all been very impactful on myself and on others, mainly starting in my story with addiction, but then, moving into entrepreneurship and moving into becoming a family man as well.
Mm-hmm. That's big, man. All right. Yeah, the start of the story, you in a lot of other podcasts, you talk about the drug thing, how that went down. Do you think that's, the guys I get on the podcast, they all have some kind of story. Nine out of 10 people all have some kind of story like that. Do you think it's like necessary to achieve success, be tougher out of that, or is it something?
That's an interesting question. It's a question that I have seen before, and it's a question that I throw around. Because, here's the deal. Like, in my case, it was absolutely necessary that I went through that hard. I had to hit that rock bottom. I had to go through that self-induced pain. I had to go through that level of uncomfortability to end up on the other side and figure out what I was made of. But here's the deal. Pain is relative. So, like, while what it took to make me turn my life around, while that was drug overdose and losing everything in my life and all of that stuff, it may just be a shitty job for someone, or it may just be the decision that they want to drop out of school and do their own thing. Everybody's breaking point is a little bit different. Mine just happens to be very extreme.
Right. All right. Like in those times, you touched a little on it. How do you push forward when it all goes down? How do you kept your head high for yourself?
At the breaking point, like after, so like in my story in particular, are you asking like how I got back up and like, went to rehab, got out of rehab and started doing deals?
Right. Because it was a pretty bad situation. So how do you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, here's the deal, man. So here's the deal. Breaking out of that type of cycle. It wasn't like, hey, I'm addicted to drugs right now and I'm going to go be this very successful entrepreneur. Right? That was never in the picture. It was all about breaking things down into very small, attainable chunks. Like there for a long time, dude. A year and a half. My only goal was stay sober today. Right? Like I was just like, just don't use drugs, alcohol, or people for today, and that's a win. You know what I mean? And then eventually that daily goal changed. While that was always part of the goal, eventually I could add a little bit more into my life, right? So then it was don't use drugs, alcohol, or people, and make a little bit of money, or like do something productive, get to the gym or meditate. But it's all small actions that compound into the big.
Right. That's big, man. Yeah, it's big. How do you see people in that thing? You talk about the setting the goal for yourself. Like, I don't want to use drugs today. I don't want to misuse people today. How do you position yourself with the people around you? Because that's a big thing, of course. When you have addicts around you, it's easier to fall back into that.
Yeah, man, and a big thing is I had to completely revamp who I wanted to hang around. Like I didn't want to be a drug addict and an alcoholic anymore. So I couldn't hang out with drug addicts and alcoholics. Right. If I wanted to be sober, I had to hang around people who were sober. If I wanted to be successful, I had to hang around people who were successful. If I wanted to be fit, I had to hang around people who were fit. Spiritual, hang around people who were spiritual. You know what I mean? But if the conditions aren't there, if the conditions aren't right, then you're never going to get it. It's like being like, hey, you want to eat something for dinner, but you have all the wrong ingredients. Like, how the fuck is that going to happen? You know what I mean? And if you want to be successful and you want to be an entrepreneur, but you're hanging out with people who are in college and want to be, have finance jobs, that you've got the wrong ingredients. You're not going to be able to follow the recipe. You're not going to be able to create the thing that you want because you don't have the right conditions.
Mm-hmm. How do you find those people for yourself? How do you find those ingredients?
Yeah. So, the first thing, number one, it's trial and error. But we live in a time where there are such incredible tools. Social media, look, you found me, got me on this podcast as well as other people. But what stops most people is they don't have the willingness to do the outreach, or they have limiting beliefs and fears and insecurities. You know, they think, man, like, okay, let's take you starting this podcast, for example, right? There's plenty of other individuals who want to start the podcast, but they're afraid to reach out to people. They're afraid to start the podcast. They're afraid to put themselves on camera, even though they know that's what they want, but they haven't done the internal work to make sure that they can actually do the things that they want to do. Like there's a prerequisite to all this shit, and it's being able to push yourself. It's being able to master your mind. It's being able to do the things that you say you're going to set out and do. Otherwise, limiting beliefs, emotions, other people, negative thinking, negative people, they're always going to get in the way.
Right. Yeah. How do you? Yeah. But like the people part, because that's a thing. It's in my life. That's a like kind of struggle. The people around me, they don't have the same vision as I am, and that's for a lot of guys listening to the podcast. For yourself, how did you find those people? Like you went to meetups or something, or?
Yeah. So I mean, here's the deal. Like I grew up, and where do you live at?
Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, right?
Sure.
Is entrepreneurship popular there?
It's not, no.
Right. It's a U.S. thing. But so like I live in the United States, obviously, but I live in an area of the United States where entrepreneurship is not popular at all. Mm-hmm. Like I live in a very, like structured area, go to college, get a job, that type of thing. That's what people in my area are conditioned to come up and do. So, when all my friends took that path and I wanted this different path, it's not like I could just, like people who live in LA, Miami, or New York, it's not like I could just like go to a meetup. You know what I mean? There's no fucking meetups here. Right. And so I had to learn, and I didn't necessarily have to know the people for me to consider that they were the people that I put myself around. So like an example is there was a very long period where I listened to the Tim Ferriss podcast religiously. And even though I didn't know Tim, I felt like Tim was who I was surrounding myself with, because all day long I was consuming his podcast. So it's like I wasn't hanging with loser friends. I was hanging by myself, but I was listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast, and I was listening to other podcasts, and I was reading. So surrounding yourself with the right people doesn't mean that you have to have friends who are entrepreneurs. Like maybe it just means that the majority, because like all that matters is what type of content is entering your brain through, visual reading, audio through listening, or watch, visual and audio, watching videos. Like all that matters is that it's not low life people who don't want what you want, projecting their bullshit on you. All that matters is that you're consuming the type of information and energy that you want in order to succeed. That's all that matters. And, if you do have that desire for connection, which most people do, I do, if you do have that desire for connection, there are tons of other people exactly in your spot, right? I don't care what stage of entrepreneurship you are in. There are tons of people on the internet who will gladly connect with you, friends at the same stage. And they will say, you know what? And then you just have to present ideas. Like it's great to connect with people, but then how do you actually leverage that? So, right, if you connect with someone on social media who's at, like, let's say you're an early stage entrepreneur, first 6 months in business, right? Or just even trying to figure out what to do, right? You're interested in entrepreneurship. You like the idea of working for yourself. Find someone else online who is clearly the people that you follow also engaging on there. Connect with them. Be like, oh, you're also interested in entrepreneurship and working for yourself. Cool. Why don't we have a call Sundays at 7 p.m. once a week and chat, right? Why don't we bounce ideas off of each other? Why don't we mastermind, right? You can always find people who are willing to talk to you, who want to grow, because you have Instagram at your fingertips.
Right. Yeah, that's the cool thing about this, about the time we live in. You can reach everyone. That's so dope. Yeah. I want to get into your personal brand thing. Like I found you through your personal brand, a lot of guys positioning themselves. But you talk a little about fake gurus I saw on your page. That's a little fucked up thing. How should you position yourself? How should I, for example, position myself on the social, someone starting a business?
Yeah. So, it's interesting you asked this. I was actually just, I've been shooting videos all morning. And I just shot a video about this. Building a personal brand is great. Building a personal brand is definitely the right thing to do. Right. But the problem is building a personal brand right now is the sexy thing to do. Everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and build a personal brand. But personal brand does not always equate to income, right? There's plenty of, like, there's so many quote unquote influencers out there right now who are traveling the world, getting paid to post. Well, guess what? In the next 18 months, we're going to experience a market that is less good than it is now. The market's going to take a turn. And guess what? The market is going to flush out these influencers, and it is only going to have space for business people, right? Real deal entrepreneurs who have shit. I didn't put out a single piece of content on social media until I didn't even have an Instagram until I was almost done building my second business. I was like doing that shit. And then, I got exposed to Instagram. I'm like, this is a great world. I could be passionate about this, whatever. But the point is, like, I wasn't like, hey, I'm going to rely on my personal brand to be my primary source of income. Like, you cannot do that. You cannot rely on your personal brand to be your primary source of income unless you have significant business experience about how to monetize it.
Mm-hmm. Right. You think like you should post the things as a, like, for me starting out, you think it's okay to post the shit and give advice? Because I don't know what I'm talking about. Of course, I have people on the podcast. I cut out the bits, posted on the gram. You think that's okay for people to give advice to younger people, I guess?
I think it's okay. So I think it's okay for you to be used as a conduit. Like, if you take some of my clips, fuck yeah, that's super rad. Or if you even talk, like, and then you get down to, like, Gary Vee has, like, presented this to the world really well. If you're putting out content that documents, that's fine. That's totally fine. The only thing that I want to steer you away from is, like, spending all your time documenting content, because it's an expensive habit. Like, costs money to grow on Instagram. It costs money to make content, and if it doesn't cost money, it costs time, which then costs money. Right? Like, when you could be focusing on selling something, learning sales, learning something, income producing activities. But if you're just documenting shit and putting it out, that's fine. If you're reposting content or using, content from this podcast to show people shit, that's fine. The important thing, like, you'll never hear me talk about, hey, here's how you build an 8-figure business, because I haven't built an 8-figure business, right? I know how to do high 6 and 7. And so that's what I talk about. And those are the guys wanting high 6 and 7 right now. Those are the guys that I talk to. It's important not to talk about things that you haven't done. That's the very important thing. That's the biggest thing that I see. Everybody, especially young guys, are like, I'm going to build my personal brand, which means I'm going to, they think that, like, a personal brand can be anything, dude. Look at, like, there's fucking guys on Instagram who their brand is, like, hanging out with exotic animals in weird places, like fucking tigers and shit. Right. You know what I mean? But, like, in this space, in this niche, people think that building a personal brand means you have to be telling people what to do. And that's just not the case. Like, a personal brand is literally just an extension of your personality. So if you're not, like, in your business or in your day-to-day life, like, coaching people on how to be successful or, leading a team and that shit, why the fuck would you talk about it on social media? Right? But if in your day-to-day life, you're hungry for growth and you always want to learn, you can be like, hey, I always want to learn. I'm hungry for growth. This is why, right? Let me know what you think about this. Who else is hungry for growth? Let's connect. You know what I mean? And they get really confused about what they want and what it actually takes. Like, it's a crazy world, dude.
It definitely is, man. Where do you want to take this Brodie Kern brand? Because you're growing on Instagram like crazy. Where do you want to take this in the long run?
Yeah, man. So there's a very specific thing that I like to talk about, and it's this thing called self-mastery. And basically all that it is discipline. It's the ability to do what you say you're going to do on a consistent basis. Now, I'm 25 years old. Every other 25-year-old who is putting out content is, some e-commerce guy who wants to flash really nice cars and that they travel and, all this shit, right? It's some e-com course, but the thing is they haven't done e-com. Like, and there's definitely real people out there teaching, but there's just a lot of fake bullshit. And it's like, okay, like, so what, like, I want stuff that's actually going to help me succeed. And that's why I put out the type of content that I do. I literally shoot from my room with whatever shit is in here. I've got some fucking trash, a bottle sitting there. I'm like, leave. My camera guy gets pissed all the time. He'll be like, clean that off, dude. I'm like, leave it, because this is what I'm sitting here with today. Like, whatever the fuck is actually going on in my life, that's what I'm going to put out. And I'm only going to put out stuff that can help someone make a change in their life today. And so, like, my brand is all around this self-mastery aspect because it's the prerequisite to success. I could give you the blueprint to the next $1 trillion company, the next Amazon, the next Apple, and you're not going to be able to implement it because guess what? It takes discipline and work every single day. Even if your spouse is pissed or you're emotional, you're depressed, you're anxious, like life fucking happens on life's terms all the time. Life is never going to do its shit on your terms, right? And so you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to roll with the punches. And that is why mastering this is the most important thing that you do. Until you are the most disciplined motherfucker that you know, you will not even make progress in business.
Right. What are your like, it's a too big topic to cover though, of course, but what are like the big bullet points in discovering yourself, in becoming the best version of yourself? Because that's a big thing, of course, in this space.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal for me, man. It's do the hard shit. Mm-hmm. It's do the hard shit. Whatever makes you uncomfortable, do that. Right. And I'll give you a personal example. But last December, and I'm sure you see now, so I love to run. I run every day now. Mm-hmm. But in December of 2018, at the end of December, the last week in December, I could barely run 1 mile. And I decided I was going to pick up running because I hated it. I hated running more than anything on the planet. And for that reason, I decided, hey, I'm going to pick up running because I was obsessed with the idea of mastering my mind. And if I could beat running, I could beat anything. And in just 3 months, I ran my first marathon. Right now, I am training for a 50-mile race August 16th. I'm going to run 50 miles. Couldn't run a mile, 5 months ago. And it's just, it goes to show like it's not about me running. It's not about me being more fit. Like it's all about my mind. The amount that I have learned about myself is insane because, it's been hours and hours and hours every single week, just pounding the pavement. Every single step, my brain is like, you can stop, you can turn around, you can go home, you can walk. It's always trying to stop me. But what I have learned about myself and my ability to push forward and my ability to persevere is invaluable. And you can learn that by doing the hard shit.
Right. It's all about the voice in your head, beating that motherfucker. Yeah, it's true, man. Do you have like habits you discovered along the way that made it better for you, better to destroy that voice?
Yeah, man. And so, the habits that I picked up, they were all based around that idea that I was just talking about, uncomfortability, right. And consistency and discipline. So like, okay, let's take this for example. The last thing I do in my morning routine is I take a cold shower, freezing cold shower, because it sucks. And if I can do that every single day, like I can kick ass in my days and my weeks and my months and my years, because like, it's just like doing something that like, I don't have to do. I always try to do things that I know my competitors are not doing, right? I'm trying to do the harder shit, even if it comes down to that.
Outworking them, doing
yep.
That's cool, man. What are like, you touched on the sales thing and the marketing thing, just now. What are like skills you need to develop? Because I like the mindset of human. I like to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you hear a lot about this, right? What skills should you be learning? High income skills, right? The number one skill that you need, self-mastery. If you cannot do what you say you're going to do on a consistent basis, you can't do anything. Right? That's the number one skill. You need to be able to master your mind. Then number 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, the shit gets a little different. That's where you got to find what you're good at. Maybe you're going to be a great marketer. Maybe you're a great copywriter, right? Or maybe you're a stellar salesperson. Maybe you're a great operator in business. But you need to find out where you really shine, where your zone of genius is. Like me personally, my zone of genius is sales. I'm very, very, very good in sales. But my business partner, he's an incredible systems operator. He's so good with systems, operations, making everything run from point A to point B very, very smoothly. I'm terrible at that, but I am really good at sales, right? And so I got that way by developing the skill set. But like the problem is, and why, like this is why I say self-mastery is the prerequisite. If I didn't have the ability to not listen to mind, then I would give up after 3 or 4 no's on sales calls, right? I would be like, damn, no luck today, bad leads, whatever, right? I would chalk it up to any bad leads, anything I could to get off the phone, right? But when I don't listen to my fucking mind, I say, no, you're getting all 100 calls in no matter what, and you're closing. You know what I mean? And that's why I say self-mastery is the most important skill. And then it comes down to whatever you need, right? So like that's same exact scenario for my business partner. If he would learn self-mastery, and then like if he's doing 3 or 4 hours of operational work and it becomes very, very monotonous and like painful to sit through, well, he has to be able to push himself through that. He has to be able to have that mental clarity and control to finish the job that needs to be done.
Right. That's big, man. All right. So let's go a little back in time. What would you do? The standard question. What would you do when starting over? When you're at like 1,000 in your bank account, you like, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do.
Honestly, I wish like when I was like, how old are you?
I'm 15, man.
Yeah, I wish when I was your age that I would have known about YouTube, because when I was 15, YouTube was like just about to pop. But like now it's hard to get into that space, obviously, right? But back then it wasn't. I wish that I knew about Instagram later. I mean, I've been on Instagram for less than 2 years. You know, like I wish that I had developed this idea of self-mastery earlier. I thought early on in my career that it was all about chasing money, just more sales, more income. And I thought that would make me happy. I didn't know that. But in reality, if I knew all those things, I'd be a different person. And like, I love myself. I love my life. Like I love exactly what I do, where I'm at, how I teach it, how I present myself. Like I needed all that shit. So, you know, it's an interesting question to theorize about, but like straight up, everything happens the way it's supposed to.
That's an interesting answer. All right. Yeah. That's cool, man. All right. I wanna to wrap it up a little. I wanna talk about your course. You're building the movement. Tell me about the program, the course you're building.
Yeah, man. So our company, Wake Up Wealthy, is a performance company all based around 4 core areas: mind, body, spirit, and business. Crushing each of those 4 areas at the same time. The biggest problem that I saw when I got into business and I got into coaching is that I would see guys who, you know, they made a lot of money, but they were, you know, not fit at all. They were out of shape. They were depressed, but they were doing really good in business. Or I would see fitness influencers who were very, very fit and disciplined in their health, but they didn't make shit for money. Or I would see spiritual leaders, guys who were super dialed in spiritually, who were fat and broke. And I'm like, why the fuck, like how the fuck do I actually have it all? How can I have a rock solid mindset, have a kick-ass body, be spiritual as fuck, and make ass loads of cash, right? How can I do that? And I built that system for myself. I built that system for myself. I never intended to really give it to other people. But then I did, and I started replicating the results that I got in my life we have a number of different products. We have a high ticket coaching program. We have a low ticket course that we give out. Really, it just depends on where someone is at in their path. But no matter what, the cool thing about our company is it doesn't matter at what capacity you're involved. It forces you to level up and become the best version of yourself. It doesn't matter if it's me, my wife, my employees, the members of the brotherhood, my partner. Like, it forces us all to step the fuck up in life and in business. So if you're someone out there listening to this and you always come up a little bit short, you know that you're capable of more, you know that you could be making more money, being more fit, more spiritual, have a better mindset, but your mind and your negative thinking and your ability to be consistent gets in the way, I would recommend checking out our stuff. What we give people is the condition to actually tap into who they were supposed to be. We allow them through strict accountability and incredible personal development content, giving people just absolute clarity around who they are and where they want to go. And then actually, like, that's where we start. We do everything that I've been talking about. You know what I mean? I'm telling you that, like, self-mastery matters first, and then you got to develop skills that make you money. Like, we teach self-mastery, then we teach the skills. Everybody is just teaching the skills, and this is why we're so successful, because we teach people how to implement, and then we tell them what to implement.
Mm-hmm. Dope, man. How do you get so fucking confident? It's dope, the way you talk. I love it, man.
That's an interesting question. I wasn't always this way, and here's what I'll tell you. Your personality is made up of 3 things, okay? Mm-hmm. How you think, how you act, and how you feel. So let's break these down, because all of us have limiting beliefs. I have limiting beliefs that I encounter every single day. You know, the feeling of not being enough, that people aren't going to buy me, people aren't going to follow, whatever, right? And how you change the way that you think is by talking to yourself more than you listen to yourself. So picture on each side of you, there's a positive track, like a treadmill, and there's a negative track. And there's thoughts going on each side in the inverse, in the opposite. One side says you are enough, one side says you are not enough. You get to choose which side to hop on, right? You get to choose what side you want to be on. If your mind and your anxious thoughts are telling you that you're not enough, you have to literally stop yourself in your tracks and say aloud over and over, I am enough, I am enough, I am enough. Right? You have to change the way that you think. Then the next thing, you have to change the way that you act. If you want to be a confident person and you slouch over, you talk quiet, you look down at the floor, you don't make a lot of eye contact, well, that's not what confident people do. So you have to break over that fear. You got to sit the fuck up. You got to put your chest out. You got to, use hand gestures, be loud, be theatrical, talk big. You got to make eye contact. And you have to fucking act like a confident person would. Right? You have to act like a confident person would. Then the next thing is you have to feel it. And this gets into state control and physiology. If you take, imagine if you stood up right now and did 25 jumping jacks and like a bunch of deep breaths, you'd be pumped up, right? You'd feel jacked. And so and that's how you change the way that you feel, by creating energy. So you have to change the way you think, act, and feel. And I just explained how to do all of those very simply. And if you do that, you can change the way that you present yourself. You can change the person that you are. You can become the person that you want to be. It doesn't mean you're any less of yourself than you were before. It just means that you transcended to that next level.
Right. That's dope. Yeah. Phil McCarthy, we both had him on the show. He's big on that. He talks think about the person we want to become and reverse engineer that bitch. Yeah. That's cool, man.
You just cut out, but I do want to take a minute to say Phil McCarthy is a badass. There are not many people in my industry talking about mindset and self-transformation who I respect, and that guy is one of them. So
he definitely is. It's a cool guy. Yeah. No, I talked about is how he reverse engineers the person he wants to become. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it's dope, man. All right, so last thing, I always ask my guests books. What was a big book in your personal development? Yeah,
man. So there's the classic books that everybody probably says, Rich Dad Poor Dad was my first book. That really helped me change the way that I looked at money and looked at life and investing and how you grow wealth, because I had no education. Think and Grow Rich is a book that I still read a year. It's a book that I have a shit ton of notes in, and it's just all scribbled up. I always have that thing. But actually, my favorite book of all time is this book called Why Buddhism is True by Robert Wright.
Why is that?
It really puts me in a good spot. I read a lot of philosophy, a lot of Stoicism, Alan Watts, Seneca, even modern Stoics like Ryan Holiday. I love Stoicism, I love meditation, and I love what Buddhism teaches about meditation. And that book, what it does is it breaks down Buddhism and gives a real practical and logical way of thinking about it. And it just created a tremendous impact in my life.
That's cool, man. That's dope. Awesome, man. Like I said, love the way you present yourself. Where can people find you?
Yeah, best place is on Instagram. I'm super responsive. It's just at Brodie Kern, BRODIE KERN. Links to everything I have are on there. Send me a DM. Maybe it'll take me 4 or 5 days, but I'll typically respond. Would love to talk to you guys. Would love to see what's going on in your life, where I can help.
Dope, man. All right. Thank you so much for doing this, man. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, of course, dude. Of course.
All right. Destroy your day. We'll talk soon.